Hi, this is Brandon Spillane from thirstgym.com. Today we're going to talk about an exercise called the barbell overhead press, also known as the military press, versus chains. So, just like our standard overhead press, all of our coaching stuff is going to be the same. We're just going to add a chain variation to it, and we'll talk about why we're going to do that. Quickly, to talk about the setup first, you will need a pair of like easy loaders or some kind of loading system. We just put ours on the barbell here, and then I recommend putting the chains towards the very end or the very bottom if at all possible, because of how high the barbell is getting off the ground, unlike the squat or the bench press or even the deadlift for that matter. You are going to want the chains relatively low so the chains can stay on the ground the whole time. That will help stabilize the movement just a little bit. There is going to be some challenging aspects in terms of the instability that you're going to have, which is great for abdominal strength and overall just building your overhead press. But keeping a couple links on the ground is definitely what you want to do to give you a little bit of stability, because we're not really after the instability portion of this. It's just an added benefit so long as we can keep some chains on the ground. So hopefully that makes sense. But again, same thing on the other side, just make sure they're even. I will say that most chains, usually for a pair in total, are about 40 pounds. So if you happen to be a weaker or smaller lifter, that's entirely okay. Just make sure you find some lighter chains if at all possible, because then you're going to be finding it hard to add load to the barbell. In that case, you might just want to work on the load first before adding the chains. So with all that said, we got those set up. We're just going to have the barbell in the rack, ideally a little bit underneath our chin height. Hands are going to be a little bit narrower than our bench press position. You can have your thumbs around or over. That's personal preference, up to you. And then what we're going to do to get this started here, we're going to get it in the rack position, which is here underneath my chin. Elbows are underneath the bar. We're going to unrack the weight, step back, really good steps. Make sure my feet are underneath my hips. Make sure I can feel my whole feet. Elbows underneath my wrist still. And we're going to reach towards the ceiling and then back. And then rack. So, as you can tell, I had a little bit of stability issues at the top. That's just part of the instability aspect of the chains. However, when I go to press, I feel more load at the top, and then when I come down, that load dissipates into me. So, when it comes to why you would use the chains, really we're talking about overloading the top aspect, the accommodating resistance portion of it. As the chain links come off the ground, that load is then dissipated into the barbell in terms of how much weight we have to lift, because it's not sitting on the ground anymore. So the load theoretically increases at the top. This can be great if you want to develop speed for your overhead press, you're trying to further develop your lockout for your overhead press, or you're just really looking for a different challenging variation to help your overhead press, especially if you happen to be somebody like a strongman athlete. Now, when it comes to programming, I think this is, if you happen to be a conjugate person, this is a great way to give you some variation from your standard boring overhead press. So you can use it from a max effort standpoint. I still personally like a 3-rep max in that case, more so than a 1-rep max. A lot of stuff can get really hairy with an exercise like this, so just keep that in mind. But otherwise, general strength training, you could do this for 3 to 5 sets for general strength. For your hypertrophy side, you could do anywhere from 5 to 10 repetitions, focusing more on your hypertrophy, and that was really going to help you with your tricep aspect as well, as we already mentioned. But also you could add this as a dynamic effort piece into your training if you happen to train with a conjugate system, to where you could actually make this apply towards your strongman training by being able to put some speed into it, using anywhere from probably about 40 to 50% of your 1-rep max, and then the appropriate chain weight on there as well. The only issue with that is the fact that most people's overhead press numbers are not very large. Like, I mean, you're not seeing people strict overhead press 400 pounds very often. Usually people are on the lower side of like 100 to 200 pounds for a 1-rep max. And you obviously need at least 40%. So if your 1-rep max is under 100 pounds, that means you would only be using the barbell, which isn't very much, which is again why I recommended just trying to build your overall strength first, and then you can look into something like the dynamic effort method for your overhead press. So I think that covers the majority of the stuff for this exercise. Just keep your technique locked in. Make sure you're not overarching through your low back. You're getting your head through the window at the top, and everything should be gravy. If you got any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. Thanks. Have a great day.